Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George Affleck.
And it's time for
UnSpun.
Oh, I see what you did there. Your beard's way better.
Beardgate.
Hey, before we get funny, just coming off 4 hours of live radio at CKNW, filling in for Simi Sarah on a day that is a heavy, heavy news day. We talked about Flight 752, the Ukrainian Airlines flight down near Tehran in Iran, and Justin Trudeau stepping up to the podium, albeit 45 minutes behind schedule.
That doesn't
today.
affect a newscaster show at all, does it?
Well, and then he steps up and he does say multiple sources confirm that it's likely a ground-to-air missile strike, surface-to-air. Which is just, what are the political ramifications of this?
The complications of the whole thing. It's, obviously it's a moving story, and it's evolving as we go. And we're recording this on the Thursday. Yeah. So it's just such a tragedy.
But the statistics are what they are.
The complications of what will happen in the whole Middle East is like.
It could be anything moving forward. It feels like people are that governments are asking for de-escalation because the words that are being used. Even Trump, right? Somebody's looking at him going, "Do not." But 76 people dead. 63 of the 176 dead are Canadian, and 13 are British Columbians. So I was speaking to a couple of people whose family members were lost on that flight today, and I've just got to say condolences from our community to yours, because we would be remiss without mentioning it, even though the news cycle happens so quickly that the things that we typically talk about here.
And the Iranian community in BC is such a vibrant and strong one, and we all know people in the community, and so we're all, I think, impacted by this. So definitely condolences.
Indeed. And it should be noted that one of the people who I spoke to today in the Iranian community in British Columbia wanted to be very, very clear in how the welcoming nature of Canadians, that we are not our American counterparts, and the level of escalation and the anger that bounces. Yes, there is racism, and yes, there are cultural issues in Canada, but as a whole, especially learning about it today, listening to public outcry and response, and people just really wanting to share their condolences and their heartfelt concern for victims' families. And it's really tough, and it's hard to transition from that. But we have to, because we do have a bunch of stuff
There's a lot
to cover.
Kind of wacky stuff this week.
Can I start with a few?
Beyond that horrible.
You said Beardgate.
Yes.
Keith Baldry almost got into a throwdown on Twitter where people were freaking out that Global would dare to reference Beardgate on Twitter. It's Twitter. It's Beardgate.
It was a trending story, and it was funny, and it was coming off Christmas, and generally most men over Christmas or holiday periods don't shave. They're usually our window of opportunity to not shave. I gave up shaving, about 2 months before I stopped, being in politics. Cause,
I remember clean shaven George. Do you remember clean shaven?
There are some photos.
No.
Yeah. But it's the only thing we can do, right? We don't wear makeup generally.
Yeah.
So doing beards, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the beard on him. It's not working for me. But the drama around it, and people.
The beard's not working for George.
It's not working for me, Justin.
Hilariously, but then in UnSpun 52 last week's, we were talking about Justin Trudeau and his family being on vacation, and sort of the undercover photographs that were taken of him. He was buying alcohol, like the whole, and then all of a sudden Beardgate.
Yeah,
I guess we're just following them as though they're royalty, that we should chime in on what their socks look like, what their hair looks like, what their beard looks like.
I did see somebody say that, something about that. It's nice to see a guy getting judged for their clothing as opposed to a woman. I will say though, in politics, because I wear glasses, right? And so when I got into politics in 2011 or 10 or 11, I was having lunch with this person who had been one of the people that got me into politics. So I'll never forgive that person. No, we were having lunch, and I took my glasses off, and I showed up with my glasses on, and I took them off because they were reading glasses, I think, at that time. And she said, no, You can't be both, George.
No.
If you're going in politics, you're either the glasses guy or not the glasses guy. You can't be both the glasses guy and not glasses guy. I'm like, what? She said, no, because people will see you
Identify.
and they don't know you.
Glasses?
Yeah, you either have glasses or you don't have glasses. And the same goes for beards. You don't just grow a beard. It's very unusual to see a politician grow a beard midterm. I mean, that's either he's given up, which based on a lot of things he's been doing lately.
Or he's reestablishing himself.
There's this whole
there's
serious
the salt and pepper.
spin.
Look, we're still talking about the
He
beard.
looks a bit like a pirate.
You
though.
might be.
I'm not sure if that's a good look.
Shh. Don't be a bully.
Yeah, okay.
Kidding. No, I'm trying to move you over to our next topic because you're known as the politician with the glasses. No. You no longer are those things.
Oh, really?
You are
Oh, yeah, underscore.
George underscore Affleck. There's some underscore envy. It is. I think that's what's happening. BC Poly Hot Stove. Jordan Bateman.
I know it's not my kids, that's for sure.
Jordan.
Yes.
Coveting the underscore.
Even though I dread it, I think it's like, not the name, but I always hated the fact that my Twitter handle had the underscore in it because that damn person 2007.
We need t-shirts.
Now I have to keep it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. Didn't mention me at all.
Oh.
Apparently I'm chopped liver over here. That's okay. It's okay, Jordan. I'll get over it.
What was you have a nickname though? What was it? Don't you have a nickname?
No.
I thought you had a nickname in the sports world.
No.
I thought you told me about something. Maybe I've heard about something and you don't want to know.
Probably.
No.
No, my friends call me Jode.
Okay. Well, that's something.
Jode.
I've never had a nickname because and what do you do with George?
Georgie.
George is I get Georgie a lot.
Yeah,
I don't mind that. That's kind of cute.
I get Jode. You were also mentioned in another podcast, and it was interesting because somebody I interviewed quite a bit from the Sauder School of Business, Tom Davidoff, right?
Yeah. My arch nemesis.
Is he? He's a very nice man. Like I love to have him on.
So.
No.
He was just, He
was chatting up your BS cup of coffee term.
Yes, my bullshit cup of coffee. Get the E. Get the E out. Internet. This is something I said on NW, where you just came from today, on CKNW, the radio station in Vancouver, if you're not from Vancouver. And I said there's this whole budget conversation that was happening in December, and I was quite upset by the fact that Vancouver had this huge budget increases. And one of the arguments politicians seem to use, not only in Vancouver but everywhere, is this cup of coffee argument. That hey, come on everybody, it's only a cup of coffee. What's that? A couple of bucks a day? Hey, what's the problem? It's a cup of coffee. You just drink one less a cup of coffee. You got the provincial government saying, federal government, city governments. You've got
50 cups of coffee a day later.
Yeah, that's in the last 10 years in Vancouver, you've consumed at least another 200 cups of coffee. It's like, how many cups of coffee? This is just bullshit. That's what I said.
You did.
I said this argument is not fair. It's not, and it's. Well, do the math. I mean, okay, if you're going to use that, then do the math, and it adds up to a lot of money. Coffee's not cheap in Vancouver, especially.
And Tom typically speaks to property tax increase because he's a very big vocal proponent.
I talk about budgeting. It's
raising property taxes massively
to pay for everything, and I'm going, whoa! It's about how much money do you need to operate first. Let's say, how much money do you need to operate? It's not, and then we have to go, okay, how do we get that money? Where does that money come from? And his arguments are really he has some good ideas, absolutely, for zoning and things, but his concept of taxation is assuming that say somebody who owns a house has that cash at hand, and sure, people in Dunbar who bought in 1970 may have the cash, but I responded, but they may not, of course, and most people I know have big mortgages, and I have a mortgage, you have a mortgage.
Big mortgage.
I use an example. He uses this rental argument for why we should pay more taxes. I responded on Facebook to him saying, this makes no sense. Here is an example, I said. In my building, I live in a strata building in downtown Vancouver. It's a nice building. It's been around for 20 years. I've lived there since it opened. So, I benefit from that, but I still have a mortgage. I'm on the strata council.
You're involved.
I'm involved. We have a rental unit that we rent out. It used to be the manager's suite, but now the manager doesn't want to live there, because it's a bachelor suite. We had it out. The person who lived there moved out, so we put it up to rent. We put it at $1,600, and it took a month. It was empty for a month. We couldn't rent it at $1,600. Okay, that aside, so therefore there's rental available in Vancouver.
Right. $1,600 a month for a bachelor.
400 square foot apartment. No bedrooms, no nothing. That unit, though, in that building, $600,000 to buy it. $600,000. So, based on today's mortgage rate, your mortgage after you've done a down payment of, let's say, $60,000 or $100,000 is about, say, $2,500 a month. About $500 for every percentage for every, So you're about $2,500 a mortgage, plus maintenance fees, $500 a month, plus hydro, plus other stuff, so plus, hey, taxes, a couple $100 a month, $120 a month for that unit to pay.
Couple cups of coffee.
Couple cups of coffee. So now you're looking at over $3,500 a month to buy that unit. So it's twice the price of renting that same unit in that building. So okay, I don't get where the argument of rental and buying. Now let's use an example which is never included in the whole mathematical equation of a basket of goods in Canada.
Okay.
Which is how you define what it costs to live in Canada, as opposed to the, how things, inflation rate. It talks about how much does it cost to live. They define in a basket of goods, in the definition in federally is that it's you don't define something you own. It's considered a rental unit. So they base it on what the average rent is in cities. So it's slightly off because it doesn't take into account mortgage rates. So if the mortgage rates double or go up 2%, that's an additional $1,000 a month for that person renting $3,500 a month. So I mean, the fact that we don't even include interest rates into
in the
basket
conversation
of goods,
yeah,
or taxation. It's the rental price of a unit in Vancouver. And so it's totally off. And that argument is what they use for how they define why it's okay to tax, because they say, it's a rent, it's only valued at this much per month. So it's just an unfair example of how we justify the cost of living in our city and why you should tax higher. It really, really frustrates me.
It does.
Everything should go back to how much money does the city need to operate.
Which would require you to actually
understand the budget.
Go through it and figure out what the costs are to
Something
then find out how much
did not do in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Whereas in Port Coquitlam,
Brad West, boy,
you're making us look bad in Vancouver. So he comes out.
I sent the note to George going, "Oh, look at this story," and you said.
Well, I sent him a direct message with the and he was he sent me a direct message saying, "Check it out." And I'm like, "Oh, you bastard!"
We already got the E. You might as well say it.
Because he's like, yeah, of course, because he came in with less than a 0.5% tax increase
and a reduction for some business
for businesses. And I know that people are saying, "Well, Poco's not like Vancouver," but
I want to be like Poco.
It's like he took the same formula that I argue. Say, what do we need to do? What are the basics? The things that filling the pothole, streets, community centers, all that stuff. What do we need to do for our community? Now, how much is that going to cost? Now, if we want to do extras, what are those extras and what's that going to cost? Or should we do those things? They decided as a council not to do all those fancy extras. And so they have a budget that's going up less than 0.5%. As opposed to Vancouver, who's gone up 0.7 or 7% plus, so we have about 8.2% cost increase for taxpayers in Vancouver.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What would you consider a fancy extra in Vancouver that has been happening?
Well,
give me an example.
The housing stuff is costing us a whole bunch of money, right?
Housing stuff.
There's capital, all the housing initiatives that we're doing, the cost of staffing, there's departments, all these people.
How many people where? What?
43 communications people, that cost money.
That was for Jordan as well. He mentioned that.
Housing, taking on the role of the provincial government and the federal government as a city is costing us hundreds of millions of dollars. And because nobody is doing it. But I would say, and I always argued, let's just take on the province and feds and say, do your job. Quit downloading to us. Enough is enough. You have your job. We have our job. Do your job.
Yeah. So we can do ours.
So we can do ours. Yeah. But they don't need to because they know that people like Gregor Robertson and other councils are now just going, okay, we'll build housing then. It's like, oh my God, the taxpayers in these cities can't afford this. There's no regional strategy. There's no provincial strategy for housing. Where is the housing strategy? The federal one is weak. Let's start focusing on how the whole country can deal with this housing crisis that we are in. We cannot do it alone in Vancouver. And Brad West knows that. Derek Corrigan fought for that. That was his argument when he was mayor of Burnaby. He said, not my job. And so, but the new council has decided that it is their job. And so they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on housing. But they have billions set aside. So they have a bit of cash to spend. But,
So how are taxes going up when there's so much cash to put aside to spend?
Well, you have the capital and operating, and you have the CACs, the community amenity contributions. Right. In Burnaby, they have a kind of a flat rate structure for community amenity contributions. Ours are all negotiated, depending on the neighborhood, and you get this deal, but it takes years and years before the amenity comes in. So there's a lag time for the money coming in. There's also a lag time, and I saw this. I think it was Jen St. Dennis posted something about housing starts this year are up, and she said, "Well, where's the housing problem? We're building things."
Steve Zaretsky posted that.
Is that it was?
Yeah.
So there's a lag time that I believe sometimes is intentional by developers when maybe it's not intentional, but they like the prices being high, and so they'll pull back when they think the market is getting too, supply side driven. And
Right.
so, and that when that happens, that's when government should step in and start building housing. That's when to even the market out and stop these inflationary challenges.
Tactics.
That you need the government. That's where government's role needs to be a part of the housing process to even out the growth and we know there's 30,000 people moving into Lower Mainland every year. It's been that for the last 50 years on average. Vancouver's 1% every year.
And where are we putting everybody?
Well, yeah, we know this. So if we know this, plan around it in every way.
You would hope. Housing conversation, affordability issues, the crisis of not having enough supply for the people that need it at a rate that is somewhat affordable, leads us all the way to Oppenheimer Park.
Yes,
we're still talking about it, George.
And a death, and another stabbing, and all these other things. And the park board punted it again. John Cooper and Tricia Barker saying, come on, guys.
They're screaming into the wind.
Died.
Yeah,
somebody has died, which is what we've been talking about since this. I've been saying it for 2 years almost. Yeah. That if we
You've said it almost weekly for a year now.
I said it when I was on Linda Steele's show before I left office. I said this park's coming, this campsite's coming back, and if we don't deal with it then, which we didn't, you're going to have. This is what's going to happen.
So, question: given that there has now been a fatality attributed to this encampment, the camp at Oppenheimer Park, that really hasn't been decamped, that's the word I was looking for, which is the nice way that everybody's been trying to put forward. Why do the police not just go in and clear it out now?
It's a good question. Or why the province doesn't say,
it's dangerous.
You know what? You guys aren't doing your job. It's time, we work at the government, civic governments kind of work at the pleasure of the province. And so the province, like they have done with school boards, can I think, step in. But I think the police could argue, that's enough. Let's just. But I think they're worried about riots. They're worried about, certain communities being upset. Well, the people in the park might get.
But there are people on the downtown east side who are saying it's very unpopular for me to say this out loud, but that is dangerous. What is happening there is dangerous. I think, for me personally, and it's just my opinion, that community deserves better from our city, from our government. Period. Like, it deserves better. Like, what's happening down there is just
the community as a whole.
That community, specifically the community of the downtown east side, and spending time in that environment, going down. I had Mark Brand on the other day. I had Sarah Blythe in the other day as well, and just talking about all the good work that is going into
safe drug supplies. The safety of our residents is priority number one in government, and certainly in civic government, where you are in charge of the police force, you are in charge of the parks and the land use and all those things. A safe city is priority number one, and this is not safe. It's not safe for people who are in the park. It's not safe for people around the park.
What's the end game for people who push back on clearing it out? What's the end game for the people that are pushing back on actually emptying out the park and enforcing that park not having camps in it? Because I'm not allowed to camp.
If you listen to Gene Swanson, it's all the housing in the world. I mean, it's literally until every person who's homeless has a home in the entire Lower Mainland. I guess this park is still relevant. But it's a statement more than anything. To Gene Swanson, that park, and she supports the camp, is a statement about housing and the challenges of homelessness in our city, and it absolutely is. But when does a statement become a dangerous situation? And this is a dangerous situation. It's irresponsible of Gene Swanson. It's irresponsible of the entire council. It's in the park board, the police, the province, anybody to let this continue. It's really irresponsible, and it's not safe, and somebody has died. How can we not take this seriously? But it's starting off it's off the news feed. It's gone.
Well, it's back on now. And we're going to keep talking about it until something's actually done, because you've been saying for, like you said, 2 years now, that this is precedent setting in that if that park, then why not every park? Why not all summer long people can camp down at Spanish Banks?
Yeah.
Why not
Rec Beach is open game? Have you walked down Granville Street?
Oh, I have.
Right in front of the Hudson's Bay, in front of every empty, there's tents all along
West
Granville
Broadway.
Street now. It creates this challenge, and of course we want to find homes for people. Of course we do, and they did last summer for all those people in Oppenheimer Park. They found homes for them all.
But that's not the answer. Camping in parks is where fatalities and dangerous behavior is rampant. It really is. That's not an overstatement.
We have shelters. We have services. That we have everything available to everybody. everybody will find a home for everybody if they ask.
If they ask,
That's
and you have
proven.
said, let's start moving some of the affordable or temporary modular homes onto city-owned property, and because they can be built very quickly. We've seen that.
Yeah.
Let's build stuff.
And that's
for
where the
people.
province can jump in as well, to loosen up some more money for some more modular homes, not only in Vancouver but everywhere. And Vancouver has built more of them, but they need a certain size of a site. But we have, a lot of small sites across the city that we could use.
Let's do it. Now we're going to make it funny. Ricky Gervais, did you love the Golden Globes? I totally watched.
I watched, of course, and he was, talk about swearing. He really used all his swear words that night and ended the whole show with a big F off to the crowd. I mean, he was going after the woke nation, right? This is something.
Don't come up here and thank your agent and
and complain about the environment while flying off in a private jet to Palm Springs, something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I think Leonardo DiCaprio is the most guilty of this. He flies into all these places in his private jet and then protests the environment. I mean, so he was going after that sort of
woke.
The woke nation of people, and it was interesting to see how it was uncomfortable to watch a lot of it. So it took away the joy of the Golden Globes, the drunkenness of the whole event. But
I still loved Michelle Williams and Patricia Arquette and. What were the other ones that were really poignant? Ellen DeGeneres, Kate McKinnon.
What about River Phoenix? What the other one? Joaquin Phoenix. Yes. Yeah. That was weird.
He's always weird, though. Yeah. That's his shtick. That's his thing. But personally, favorites: Ellen DeGeneres, Tom Hanks, Carol Burnett, and Cecil B. DeMille Awards. Hello.
Well, Tom Hanks was the meme of the night. That's for sure.
I love Tom Hanks.
To the Ricky Gervais speeches, the facial expressions were interesting. Anyways,
he was the best. He was right camera center, right? Like you could Tom Hanks it up. I know. I love him so much.
But what's interesting is what happened the day. We talk about spin, and how people on the right side of the spectrum were championing Ricky as because he was fighting the woke nation, woke people, and then the people who are woke saying finally somebody's whatever. I mean, I'm going, what's going on here?
Do you follow him on Twitter?
Yeah,
he's a great follow. You should George underscore
shots.
Affleck those bathtub shots without his teeth.
It's not good looking.
Hilarious. He welcomed his 300,000 new followers.
I know.
It's good.
Controversy gets you the followers.
We love you, Ricky Gervais. We're gonna, we'll copy him in, see if he retweets the UnSpun. At Jody Vance, at UnSpun podcast, also very, very funny and timely tweets and retweets and likes on the UnSpun podcast. At the Orca.ca is where you find us, or at the Orca BC on Twitter is where you find all of our goodness, including. The tasty bits from the Golden Globes. That was kind of the jumping off point for my column this week, the middle.
Yes, that's
because the whole controversy over, and Joaquin Phoenix being so woke said, I really appreciate, because he's vegan, I really appreciate that the Golden Globe Awards organizers made a vegan meal.
And it was it
looked beautiful.
It was vegan, and it was something else, wasn't it? There was some other thing to it. I didn't understand half of what but yeah, it was great. I'm sure it was delicious.
It looked delicious, but people were like, "Here's an example of Hollywood vegan extremism." Like, relax. Oh my gosh, there isn't enough meat and potatoes in the food for you. Come on,
Where's
dude.
My steak?
Yeah. So get over it. Like, calm down.
And that's calm down because you think it's okay. You think
just veg up your diet, and one vegan meal ain't gonna kill you. If you love your meat and potatoes, go have an In-N-Out burger afterwards. Like, come on. And my column jumping off point is the extremes of this time of year when people do their New Year's resolution. Do you do New Year's resolution?
New Year's. Not like in a formal way, but generally, what happens is
Dry January?
Yeah. What day does January start?
It's usually over by the 12th. That's the point of my column. New Year's resolutions, you're just a couple of days away.
4 glasses of wine. It was a business meeting. I had to.
You had to. That's hilarious.
But no, it's interesting. So for me, it's just because Christmas, because you're just eat and drink sometimes, but mostly eat so much food that literally by New Year's Eve I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, but then we ended up staying until 3 in the morning. But still, genuine. But you should say, I just don't want to eat anymore. It's gonna take me a month to digest all this turkey.
Yeah.
So I think there's a direct correlation between that and.
So what's January, your New Year's resolution ish? Do you have one? Is it just
no,
like...
I mean, I have, I'm kind of I always have my goals.
Right.
So I don't...
Get back to the gym. You don't go buy a...
I go to the gym, on a regular basis anyway, so it's not like, I think it's more about, to me, it's just like it's a fresh year, but no, I don't really get involved in that.
I think that's why we get along so well. Yeah. I don't do them either. But I did, for those who are doing the extreme, I have friends that are like, we're on the 27th hour of our keto fast.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. Like, they're just punishing
Isn't
themselves.
keto all meat? Is that the one? It's
That's
all protein?
paleo. Oh. Keto is...
That's a lot of protein.
It's Atkins,
I have an app, and I put in and I'm always amazed at how little protein I'm getting. And I'm thinking, I think I eat meat all the time. And I guess I'm not getting the right protein, but I'm always going past the wrong
My
thing.
suggestion, nourished.ca. Nourished.ca. Get your veg on. That's my friend Alyssa Bowman. That's all the time we got.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm going to go get a burger.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Beer.
Yeah. I'm with George.
Happy New Year.
That's it for us.
See ya.
See ya.